Library of Heaven's Path. Chapter 83 The Arrogant Zhuoyang. Will Zhang Lishi be okay? In the classroom, Zhao Ya, Wang Ying, and the others were worried. Cao Zhang Lishi had applied for the Enlightenment Will trial to deal with Zhang Lishi. Even though not many people knew of it yet, as his students, they still heard some news of it. Don't worry, we had been through Zhang Lishi's lessons and we were all impressed with him. Liu Yang is impressed by him, so it is impossible for anything to go wrong. Zhen Yang said. Of the 5 students Zhang Xuan accepted, he was the one who was the most dissatisfied with Zhang Lishi. However, after 2 lessons, he was already thoroughly impressed with him. Right now, even if Wang Chao wanted to accept him in, he would reject him flat out. Since this was the case with him, it was bound to be the same with Liu Yang as well. With such level of trust, how could Zhang Xuan fail the test? Boom! In the midst of speaking, someone abruptly sent the metal door flying with a kick from outside. After which, a young man walked in haughtily. Where is your respected Zhang Xuan Lishi? Get him to come out? With both hands behind his back, the young man's eyelids rose slightly as he said those words. He intentionally emphasized on the words Zhang Xuan Lishi. Not only was there not a single trace of respect in his expression, he seemed to be mocking him. Who are you? We don't welcome you here, so please leave. Upon seeing the other party speaking of Zhang Lishi with such disrespect, not to mention that he kicked the door open, Zhen Yang's face darkened. Zhen Yang, don't be rash. He is the one who was ranked 4th in the entrance examinations, Zhuoyang. Recognizing the young man, Yuan Tao's fat body shook as he hurriedly pulled Zhen Yang back and whispered to him in a hushed voice. Zhuoyang? Not just Zhen Yang, even the faces of Zhao Ya and the others darkened. They have heard of this name before. Zhuoyang was reputed to have already reached Juxi realm pinnacle, and it was possible for him to break through into the next realm any moment now. Ranking 4th in the entrance examination, this clearly showed that his strength and talent were something they were unable to match up to. To be able to recognize me, looks like you aren't as dumb as I thought. This is a war letter from Lusun Lishi. He wants to challenge Zhang Xuan Lishi to a teacher evaluation during the freshman tournament half a month later. So, who is going to accept this letter in his stead? Upon seeing the others recognize him, the edges of the young man's lip crept upwards. With a condescending look, he spoke contemptuously to them. This person was the one who just walked out of Lusun's classroom, Zhuoyang. He had long heard of Zhang Xuan, the worst teacher in the academy who scored 0 in the teacher qualification examination. As one blessed by the heavens and Lusun's prided student, he looked down on him. Teacher evaluation? Lusun Lishi? In that instant, everyone's faces changed. Even though the ones to compete in the teacher evaluation were them, it was considered as a battle between the teacher's ability to guide their students. This concerned the pride of their teacher and very few people chose to hold it. Lusun was the academy's most famous teacher and there were countless experts under his tutelage. Why would he challenge Zhang Lishi? Indeed, the petty actions Zhang Xuan was doing behind Liu Lishi had incurred his wrath and he had decided to teach him a lesson. I will be leaving the war letter here, pass it to him later. If you all dare not to accept the challenge, then admit defeat earlier and head to Liu Lishi's classroom to apologize to him. Otherwise, prepare to be shamed. Zhuoyang threw the war letter onto the table and turned around to leave. Hold it right there. Before he could exit the classroom, Zhen Yang dashed forward and blocked his path. You kicked the doors to our classroom and spoke of Zhang Lishi so disrespectfully. Apologize, or don't blame me for being discourteous. A student had the responsibility to guard the honor of his teacher. This fellow was without a sliver of respect for their teacher. How could they allow him to do as he pleased, wanting to leave right after dumping that war letter? You want me to apologize? You need to have the capabilities for it first. Sneering coldly, Zhuoyang looked at him contemptuously and sent a kick at him. Zhenyang's skill with the spear was incredible, but his punching and kicking mastery were severely lacking. Furthermore, as his cultivation level was beneath that of the other party, before he could even react, he was kicked squarely in his chest and flew backwards, crashing heavily onto the ground. Audacious! Zhao Yu's face warped in anger. With a roar, she charged forward. Just like Zhuoyang, she was Juxi realm pinnacle as well. However, her fighting prowess was slightly inferior to the other party. After trading a few blows, she was struck on her shoulder and retreated backwards. After which, Wang Ying and Yuan Tao also charged forward. However, since even Zhao Ya, who was the strongest of them all, wasn't a match for him, how could they stand up against him? In a short moment's time, the four of them had sustained some injuries. They were enraged by the other party's actions, but they were helpless to do anything. They might have learned quite a few profound theories from Zhang Xuan, but due to the lack of time, they still weren't a match for one who was placed fourth in the entrance examination. A bunch of trash. After defeating the crowd, Zhuoyang flung his sleeves and said, "This is just a small punishment." He should have thought of this possibility when he challenged lullabies. Tell him, if he doesn't dare to agree, hurry up and apologize, otherwise. Otherwise what? Before he could finish his words, a faint word echoed from the doorway. Along with Lu Yang, Zhang Xuan walked into the classroom. Otherwise. Regardless of whether Zhang Xuan was a trash or not, he was a teacher. As a student of the academy, he wasn't someone he could insult. Even though Zhang Xuan had yet to fly into rage, Zhuoyang cowered backwards. Gritting his teeth, he harumphed, "Otherwise, prepare to lose in shame in the teacher evaluation. It is not your place to determine whether I would lose or win. Return and tell Lu Sun that I had accepted his war letter." Zhang Xuan waved him away. Actually, he was a little dismal as well. After expending much effort to coax Huang Yu and Bai Sun to leave, he had intended to continue the lessons for a bit more. Yet, before he could enter the classroom, he heard the bellowing of this fellow. Lu Sun had challenged him. "You have a few hundred students under you. It is just a single Wang Yan who is coming to my lessons to listen in by the side, surely you don't need to make such a big fuss out of it. Furthermore, even if you wanted to dispatch a student to send a war letter you should at least choose someone reliable." This fellow, despite being a junior, he was acting so arrogantly. If not in consideration for my identity, I would have extinguished his life with a single slap. If not so, do you think that I would allow him to be acting so snobbishly here? That's for the best then. Farewell. Zhuoyang prepared to leave. Wait. Zhenyang struggled forward. He looked anxiously at Zhang Xuan. "Zhang, not only did he speak disrespectfully towards you and smashed our door, he even attacked us. If we were to allow him to leave like this, wouldn't others just see us as easy targets in the future? Why? That thrashing wasn't sufficient for you? Humph. Despite being weak, you sure speak so arrogantly, you damned brat." With his head held up high, Zhuoyang's gaze swept across Zhenyang, Zhao Ya and the others scornfully before sneering, "Just this shabby classroom and these few students, I don't care if that door really means anything much. After all, do you think anyone would secretly listen into your lessons? Stop dreaming. Besides, you all would need more capable than that to keep me here. I will stand here, and if any of you think they're sufficiently skilled, come at me." At which, he paused for a moment before clasping his hands towards Zhang Xuan. "Zhang, as a teacher, surely you wouldn't stoop down to the level of attacking a student. Teachers had their own pride as well. If he were to really attack a student, he would be looked down by the others." This was also what the saying "soldiers against soldiers, generals against generals" meant. Even if a general were to defeat a small soldier, it wouldn't be something honorable for him. Calculating that it was unlikely Zhang Xuan would make a move on him and that none of his students was a match for him, he was fearless. Zhang Lishi. Seeing Zhu Hong behaving so arrogantly, the faces of Zhao Ya, Zhen Yang, and the others paled. They clenched their fists tightly together and an urge to charge forward and bash him surged through them. However, they also knew that they weren't a match for Zhu Hong. They had already fallen tragically in defeat previously. They would only make a shame out of themselves if they were to continue making a move against him. You want to teach him a lesson? Ignoring that conceited fellow, Zhang Xuan turned to look at his students. Yes. All of them nodded their heads simultaneously. Seeing their expression, Zhang Xuan casually waved his hand. Then, with a serious expression, he said, "No matter what, he is Lu Lishi's student. It would be hard for me to account to him if he were to die. How about this, Yuan Tao, your strength is the weakest, and you have good self-control, go and beat him up into a pig head and have him compensate for our door while you are at it. Remember to hold back. Also, during the fight, you must remember to play fairly and not to go overboard. Don't wound the camaraderie you have as fellow students."